A few years ago, I was having a crisis and decided to end my life. I drove over an hour to do it, at the top of a mountain, a beautiful hiking spot that I have very fond memories of. The drive up the mountain to the trailhead is long and winding, so it took a moment to get to the spot I wanted. As I was driving up the mountain, out of nowhere, the sky opens up, like a severe, raining, sideways thunderstorm straight out of a movie. It felt so theatrical and dramatic, I couldn't help but appreciate the timing. When I finally arrive at the trailhead, the storm subsides and I get out of my car and just sit for a moment reflecting. As I'm getting up for my final walk, boom! Lightning strikes. And I mean like 15 feet away from me. It was nuts. I'd never been so close to an actual lightning bolt. My ears were ringing, my vision was spotty. I wasn't actually hit, but it felt like a flashbang or something. I just started laughing. What a wild, unexpected, and unlikely thing I just got to witness. I walked the trail after my heart rate calmed down and just enjoyed the scenery for a while. I decided the lightning strike was too cool a story not to share, so I drove back down the mountain to get cell service and called my sister. I suppose this isn't a wholly unbelievable story, just a lucky confluence of events. It sure felt unbelievable at the time. I'm not a religious person, but damn, if that storm didn't feel like the universe trying to steer me back down off that mountain. I've been at 3 jobs where my road to getting fired have all been identical. I was hired on and had a male manager for 1 year, 2 months, and 11 days. They all did lateral moves to other positions. My new manager was a female each time. 3 months and 4 days later, a guy named Nick was fired. 6 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days later, I was fired. It was the exact same timing, all 3 times. I got kidnapped by my neighbors when I was little. I never had more fun. I played with their kids and they let me eat whatever I wanted. It was amazing. My dad tried finding me, but I didn't know that I'd been kidnapped. I thought it was a sleepover and we were just playing hide and seek. After a week, my brother found me and took me home. That's how I found out I'd been kidnapped. In the 90s, I saw a guy disposing of a body. I was camping on a mountain and decided to go to the top of the mountain at night. It's a small mountain with dedicated campsites and a road with a parking lot or lookout at the top. It's pitch black out. We pulled into the parking lot and the car lights lit up with an old blue pickup truck. To the left was this guy shoving a lumpy carpet off the side of the mountain. We went right out of there. We got back to our campsite and stayed awake all night. We saw the truck drive by twice. We packed up and left the next morning. We stopped at a town at the base of the mountain and we used a payphone to call the police. In college in New York, we camped out at the farm owned by a grad student's family that they had owned since 1850 or so. He had told us that there were ghosts that lived there, including children that you could hear playing in the house and a blacksmith in the barn. We were way out in the woods, near remnants of their former moonshine operation, and, to be fair, we had been drinking quite a bit by the time that we were sitting around the fire. I got up to water a nearby tree and was dumbfounded by what I saw. I saw a ghost, plain and simple. It was a spectral figure with a dim, bluish glow that floated along a few yards away from me and just faded out from below the knees. I'm certain it wasn't a person in a costume or anything because I saw it phase through a fallen tree as it moved past me. It was the 80s, so projection wasn't a thing, and it wasn't scary. It didn't really do anything other than look my way. I ran back to the group to tell them, and after I said I saw a ghost in a hat, he described the rest of what I saw in exact detail, down to the string tie and a turned up side of his wide-brimmed hat. Apparently, I'd seen the parson. I'll try and make a long story short. My father passed away in 1995 and was buried in a small town in Illinois. I had to fly home before they had set the stone, so I had no pictures of his grave. A friend in my town was going to Illinois to visit her family over the holidays and was driving right by the town where my dad was buried. So I asked her if she could stop there and take a pic of it. This is a very small town with a small Catholic cemetery, so I made her a map of where it was so that she would be able to find him. The day after her trip, she called me completely freaked out, and this is what she said. I got to the cemetery and I realized I couldn't find your map. I was bummed out because I really wanted to do this for you, but there were several inches of snow on all the stones and I couldn't see anything. So, I tried scraping off some of the stones, hoping to find your family name or something, but it wasn't working. Finally, I decided I'd just have to give up, and I turned to leave, and I noticed a stone down towards the bottom of the hill that had no snow on it at all. The only stone with no snow. I walked down there and my hair was standing on end. I was so freaked out. It was your dad's stone, and the granite was still partially wet. I almost wouldn't have believed her, but she took pics as she got closer to it, and you can see exactly as she described it. No footprints near it, no other stones uncovered of snow. I started laughing when she first told me. My dad and I used to road trip all the time when I was a kid. Long trips, and we'd use the maps. My dad taught me how to read maps so that I could be the navigator. He thought it was important that we know how to read them. It was just like my dad to get impatient with my friend because she forgot the map. I don't know if there's a logical explanation, but I hope it was him telling me hello, and maybe I'll see him again someday. I had a pet penguin for a couple weeks as a child. My mum was working in the local marina and spotted it swimming around in circles. It required surgery to fix its wing, but there was a 2-week wait until it could be seen by animal surgeons, and it wouldn't survive in the wild without getting fixed. So, under those circumstances, we were allowed to take it home and put it in our bathtub where we filled it with salt water and lined with rocks from the beach to make it feel more homely. Our cat and dog simply waited outside all the time out of curiosity. It was a little blue penguin native to New Zealand, and it mostly did nothing until you poured water on its head and then it did a cute little shake. We put him on our front lawn one day, and even our cat and dog simply sat back and observed him like they even understood he was some foreign alien creature that had no business being there. I quit my job and went to China to teach English. To get the job at a school, I had to catch a train. On the way in, I met a girl. On the way back, I met 2 girls, and I got all 3 numbers and went on a date with all of them, and I wound up marrying the first girl. I have never before or since met a girl on the train, but I met 3 in one day, got a wife, and got the job as well. When I got to school, one of the other teachers was an Aussie, like me. He lived in Sydney, just like me. He lived in my hometown, and we went to the same high school. When he told me all of this, I thought he was taking the piss, but nope, it turned out to be true, and we became friends. That was the most amazing day, and I've never had another one like it. I was wearing a green shirt that day, and for the next 10 years I kept calling it my lucky shirt until it fell apart. I'd just gotten my 2-year-old to sleep. I was watching Good Luck Chuck and decided to take a shower while I had the chance. When I got out, I heard something along the lines of, "Let's get out of here," in a man's voice. I freaked out because my 2-year-old is downstairs alone with these perceived intruders, so, completely soaking wet and naked, I attempted to run down the stairs. In doing so, I slipped on the very first step and slid all the way down on my wet ass, which came out directly in front of the front door. I was going so fast that I was going to get seriously injured if I didn't block. I threw my right arm up over my face and head, and I hit the door. I hit directly on my elbow. I broke my elbow, and the ass and the back of my legs were bruised for quite some time. The intruder was just the movie. It was April 1981. I left Calgary to hitchhike with 2 male friends. I was 15, they were 16 and 18. We were picked up in Golden by 2, maybe 3 boys in a car. They were baked and started stunting through the mountains. We asked them to let us out and ended up in a stranded ditch all night. We were freezing. In the morning, we couldn't get a ride together. I was in a light spring jacket. I couldn't take the cold anymore, so I told the boys I was going to get a ride of my own. We agreed to meet in Kamloops. I put out my thumb, and since I was a little blonde girl, I was on a truck within a few minutes. The driver was nice enough, but when we got close to Kamloops, he said he was going to drive me straight to Vancouver. I had my dad's hunting rifle, and I took it out, but not in a convincing way by any means. The driver rolled his eyes and kicked me out of the truck about a mile short of Kamloops. I started walking towards the area. It was still very early in my day, but not much traffic. This was many years ago, and I don't think about the details very often as it was a difficult time. I walked on the shoulder for a while, and saw a white pickup truck coming towards me, heading in the other direction. He burned a U-turn and came up behind me. He leaned over and rolled down the passenger window and offered me a ride. I said no, I was meeting with my friends. And he told me he saw two kids on the other side of town on the highway and offered to take me there. I asked what they looked like. He said, two girls. But of course I knew he was lying because I was the first of my group to get a ride, and they were boys. I said no thanks and picked up my pace. He rolled along beside me and reached over and opened the passenger door. There was a new white rope on the seat. I did a hard 45-degree turn and started walking to the bush. He had to jump out of the truck to follow, and he left the driver door wide open, lights and radio on. I made better time over the rocks than him. I saw him stumble once. I hit a trail somewhere away but from parallel to the road. He got up from stumbling. His truck was running and open, so he ran back to the truck to follow me. I was lucky. I was on the other side of a merging lane now, and there was a boulevard preventing him from pulling alongside me and getting close. There was a truck stop at the end of the trail. By the time I got there, he was already pulling into the parking lot. I entered the restaurant, and there was only two people inside. Two teenagers, working in the cash and in the kitchen. I saw the stalker coming up the steps of the restaurant, and he looked pissed. I took one look at the kids who were running the place and this burly guy in a hunter's jacket, and I knew he would just grab me and go. Just before he opened the front door of the restaurant, I locked the door. I turned to the lock for the deadbolt on the steel-framed glass entry door. He just stared at me for a second. He was angry. He started talking to the boys who worked there, demanding that they open the door for him. So he started yelling and hitting the door. Luckily, or they may have caved into his requests, he got so furious and made so much noise, and then he went quiet. He started walking away, but not to his truck. I looked at the boy near the kitchen and said, "Lock the back door." He did. Pretty soon we heard kicking and screaming back there. The man, who I since learned was named Clifford Olson, then came to the front door to talk to the boys again. One of them picked up the phone to call the cops, and when Olson saw that, he split. I talked to the boy putting down the phone and pulled my own escape. I'm very regretful of that last part. Another girl was savagely stabbed as his next victim. I think the following day, I met up with my friends and we made it to Vancouver. I was caught soon after and returned home.